Ladies and gentlemen, Make It Stick, Chapter 3, we begin today. Before we get into that though, it's time to look at Anki. Uh-oh, computer's at 1%. Alright, give me a sec. Charge required. Jumping into Anki now. Alright, we've got 4 flashcards. What is retrieval practice and why is this superior to passive learning? So retrieval practice, this is actively pulling your own memory from long-term memory, your own memory traces from long-term memory. So actively pulling things from your own long-term memory. Why is this superior to passive learning or passive review? Well, retrieval practice strengthens, it leads to more reconsolidation, deeper encoding of new information than retrieval practice or the passive review. It also reveals your weaknesses, and passive review leads to weaker encoding and illusions of knowing and illusions of competence. Retrieval is actively recalling information from memory, which strengthens neural pathways and improves long-term retention. Cool. Unlike passive review, which creates illusions of knowing. Good enough, I think. What is Chapter 2 of Make It Stick about in one sentence? Chapter 2 of Make It Stick is about basically saying that retrieval practice, pulling information out of memory, is the most effective learning technique. Effortful act of pulling knowledge from memory is the most effective way to strengthen learning and long-term retention. Cool. 8 sections of Chapter 3 mix up your practice. Yeah, I have no idea. Interleave practice and their varied practice. Takeaway. Yeah, I don't know. The myth of mass practice, spaced practice, interleave practice, varied practice, developing discrimination skills, improving complex mastery for medical students. These principles applied are broadly applicable to takeaway. What does feedback play in what role does feedback play in retrieval practice? Well, it reinforces correct information and helps to correct misunderstandings or incorrect information, especially when delayed. I didn't read that yet. Feedback helps correct errors and reinforce correct knowledge, especially when delayed after retrieval attempts. Good enough. 8 sections of Chapter 3 mix up your practice. The myth of mass practice, spaced practice, interleave practice, varied practice, developing discrimination abilities, something medical students, improving skills for medical students. These principles are broadly applicable. The takeaway. Improving complex mastery for medical students, developing discrimination skills. All right, one more time. The myth of mass practice, interleaved practice. No. The myth of mass practice, spaced practice, interleaved practice, varied practice, developing discrimination skills, improving complex mastery for medical students. These principles are broadly applicable. The takeaway. Good. All right. That's it. Cool. Well, I guess we we'll jump into the intro now. It's only 3 paragraphs. Intro to chapter 3. I'll be back in a second. All right, looks like I forgot to start the timer, so it'll be a little bit longer today, but that's all right. This intro, 3 paragraphs to chapter 3, Mix Up Your Practice, is all about a beanbag study. And this is a very mind-opening beanbag study at that. Basically, a group of 8-year-olds was split into 2. One group practiced throwing beanbags into a bucket 3 feet away for 12 weeks. The other group practiced throwing beanbags into buckets that were 2 feet away and 4 feet away for 12 weeks as well, and they both threw the same amount of beanbags, I'm assuming. After 12 weeks, they're basically tested and basically compete who did better at throwing beanbags into 3 feet buckets. Surprisingly, it was not the group that had practiced only 3 feet back buckets. It's the group that had never thrown any 3 feet buckets. The group that practiced between 2 and 4 foot back buckets performed much better at throwing beanbags into 3 feet buckets than the group that performed just the 3 foot tosses. So counterintuitive, but mind expanding. And I'm very excited to learn more about this beanbag study and implications as we continue reading. So this next section will be about the myth of mass practice. And as always, I put at the top of this, what is this section about at the top? So, all right, let's read and I'll be back in a second. So, all right, so the myth of mass practice, just finished reading this first section. Basically, what I got up from this was mass practice is very intuitive and pervasive throughout all society. And we all believe in mass practice because it's intuitive and we can literally see our progress. When you're playing a guitar piece over and over and over again, when you're reading something over and over again, you see rapid growth and rapid gains in real time. And so you're like, this is what learning feels like. That's what you think. And this rapid gains, though, is followed by rapid forgetting. That's the problem. And you perceive the rapid gains, but you don't perceive the rapid forgetting. And so what is mass practice? Well, last chapter I thought mass practice was basically like rereading or re-exposure within a single period. Now I've generally more defined it as just like single-minded focus on one thing within a single block of time, or within a short period of time, really. It's somewhat abstract still, but I've got a better understanding. Practice that is interleaved, spaced, and varied is more effortful, and it actually is perceived to be less effective. You will perceive yourself thinking you're learning less through this type of practice than you are with mass practice, yet studies show that practice that's interleaved, spaced, and varied is more effective than mass practice. And when we're defining learning as, the ability to remember this material and be able to take it out and apply it in unique settings in the future, well, spaced and varied and interleaved practice leads to the ability to take this out, this versatile knowledge with strong memory, versus mass practice doesn't. It leads to quick forgetting. So when the time comes that you actually need to apply this in the real world, mass practice doesn't usually do the job unless you get lucky and it's necessary really quickly. So yeah, basically 2 big points there two big points. Interleaved, spaced, and varied practice appears to be more effective than mass practice, yet even knowing this, we still perceive mass practice to be more effective than interleaved, spaced, and varied practice. So I think that's basically the main takeaway of what this section's about. So mass practice will still feel more productive. We have faith because we can see progress, single-minded focus on one thing until we get it right. Yeah, and it's everywhere. Mass practice is everywhere. Schools, academies, courses, corporate trainers, sports. Sports is everywhere. Musicians, it's everywhere too. Um, yeah. So what is this section about? All right. First one, interleaved, spaced, and varied practice is more effective than massed practice. 2, even knowing this, we feel like massed practice is more productive. So I don't know what to make of Huberman's motor skill learning Huberman's motor skill learning protocol, where he's talking about just do as many repetitions as possible within a short period of time and then rest. Because I don't know, dude. I've played this Sweet Child of Mine solo piece, like the hard run on the beginning of the second solo, about 6-7 second run. I've probably done it 3,000 to 4,000 times in the past 2 months, and yet I still cannot play it perfectly yet, full speed. So if Huberman's protocol really was that good, I feel like I should be able to be doing that already. Maybe it's time to try something new, like the spaced, interleaved, varied practice, which I kind of have been, but not quite. I still do 10 minutes of just pure mass practice per day or occasionally when I'm learning it. I haven't done it in a couple days since it's been the 4th of July and everything, but quite interesting to say the least. There's a lot to talk about here. Okay, this section is long. This chapter is long, but at the same time, these sections are short. Like this spaced repetitions chapter is literally just a page or section. What is this section about? So the next section is going to be about spaced repetitions. And I'm just going to write down here, I'm going to say, as a question to ask later is, what do I make of Huberman's motor skill learning protocol? Okay. Sweet. Let's get into this next section. I'll talk to you in a second. See ya. All right, guys. Just read that whole spaced practice section. What is going on? I completed the intro paragraph, or 3 paragraphs today. I read the myth of mass practice section and spaced repetition section all today. I did forget to start the timer at one point, so I did get some extra time. Yeah, that's about 3 pages. So yeah, that's pretty good. Let's recall what we just learned in the spaced practice section. So spaced practice has been well established to lead to more effective learning, but they used a study to illustrate this. It was a microsurgery study on medical students. It wasn't a huge study. I think it was maybe 38. So 19 per group, I would assume, or maybe 38 per group. I don't know. Basically, 2 groups of medical students. Right. So there's 4 lessons on this microsurgery, which is like reattaching tendons or reattaching something. Microsurgery. 4 lessons followed by 4 practice sessions. So each lesson contains some teaching and then some practice. One group did all 4 lessons in one day, and this is typical for the in-service for these medical students. That's typical. The other group did 1 lesson, waited a week, did the second lesson, waited a week, did the third lesson, waited a week, did the 4th lesson. So each lesson was spaced between a week. So both groups were tested after a month of their last lesson. So 1 month, and then after the beginning of the study, basically, and then 2 months after the beginning of the study for this group. 1 month after their final lesson. On all accounts, on all every measurement, this group outperformed the first group. So the group was spaced out between a week between each lesson, and the group that did it all in one day, this group outperformed in every metric, including elapsed time to perform the surgery, number of hand movements, etc., all these different measurements. And beyond this, the group that had done it all in one day, actually 16% of the group damaged the rat tendons beyond repair. So, and apparently nobody in this group did, the spaced group. So spaced repetitions shown to be much more effective than massed practice or closely spaced practice. So that was that. And then they say, well, why is spaced repetition more effective than mass practice? Well, they gave basically, at least I got three main points. First of all, consolidation, so the actual development of these memory traces and more pathways and thicker pathways and more efficient highways and bigger circuits. These consolidation and encoding takes time, takes hours to days. Whereas, so that's the first point. So when you just mass practice it, the second point is like this is relying on short-term memory. It's not relying on long-term memory because that long-term memory hasn't had enough time to develop anyway. It's like lifting weights. It's like you need to lift weight to be on a builder biceps. So you do sets of biceps and then you rest for a while. Then you do more bicep sets and then you rest for a while. You got to give your muscle time to actually grow. And just like the brain, you need to give your brain time to develop, and you need to give these memory traces time to consolidate. That's the first point. The second point is mass practice relies on short-term memory rather than long-term memory. And long-term memory is actually what's important for long-term learning and being able to take these skills and versatilely apply them uniquely in new situations. And then the third point was that the extra effort required from some of the forgetting in spaced repetitions leads to or triggers reconsolidation, so further development of these memory traces. So yeah, I think that was basically it. Yep. So what was this section about? Basically, simply spaced repetitions are more effective than mass practice. Spaced practice is, this timer's about to go off. Spaced practice is more effective than mass practice. And there we go. We read basically the intro in 2 sections today, so really great progress made. The timer is about to run out, so another day of Make It Stick, another day of progress. Good stuff. All right, talk to you guys later. See ya.